Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel for another video. Today's video is going to be a curriculum picks video. I'm going to share with you all of the curriculum I picked out and plan on using with my 8th grader in our homeschool next year. So if you will have an 8th grader and are looking for some ideas or just want to see what we're doing, I hope you'll enjoy this video. Before we get into my curriculum picks, I want to give a big thanks to World Watch News for sponsoring today's video. We really enjoy watching World Watch News in our homeschool. It's a favorite for both me and the kids, and it's actually one of the things they make sure not to miss each day. So I'll share more in a bit about why we love it, along with a special offer just for you. So stay tuned. Okay, let's get right to it. If you have been following my channel for a while, you might know that in addition to my son, who will be in 8th grade next year, I also have twin daughters who will be in 7th grade and a younger son who will be in 1st grade. I will be doing curriculum picks videos for them as well in case you're interested. There will be a little bit of overlap between my son and my twin daughters because they do some curriculum together, but there are some differences too. We have been homeschooling since my oldest son was in kindergarten, and for many years, we primarily used My Father's World and BJU Press. But for this upcoming year, I'm going to be pulling from a lot of different sources, just as the result of learning about some other options and having a better idea year by year what exactly we need, what my son needs, and what resources might best help us. Yep, after 8 years, I am still learning and figuring out all of this, so don't feel bad if you are too. Okay, for math, surprise, surprise, we are going to be continuing with CTC math, and my son will be doing algebra in 8th grade. My older kids have used CTC math the past couple of years, and I really like it for many reasons. I used to be a high school math teacher, and if I had enough time in the day to teach each of my kids a different level of math, personally, I would, because I really like teaching math, but with 4 kids, there just aren't enough hours in our day. So CTC math has been a great help, not just because of the short online lessons, but because of things like the automatic grading, the ability for me to create my own worksheets and quizzes, their weekly review worksheets. All of this has worked really well for us. If you aren't familiar with CTC math, I encourage you to check out my playlist. I have a few videos sharing what this curriculum is actually like and how versatile it really is, so you can tailor it to exactly what your kids need. So that's what my son will be doing for math. Since algebra is a high school level course, I will be grading it and counting it for one of his high school math credits. You absolutely don't have to do this in 8th grade. It's totally fine to take algebra in 9th grade, but this is just where we are at right now. He's ready for it and completed the work up to this point, so this is what we are going to do. Okay, let's move on to language arts. We are doing a few different things for language arts this year. I'm going to tell you what I'm starting with. There are a couple things that I'm honestly unsure about and kind of need to see how they play out, but I've got a plan. For writing and grammar, we will use Essentials in Writing Level 8 and Writing and Rhetoric, Crea and Proverb, as a supplement. I know when I did my last homeschool update video, I had some questions, as you guys questioned whether or not I was giving up on Essentials in Writing because we had a unit that didn't go so well this past year. But big picture, I think that it is a really solid curriculum, and I have seen overall growth in my son's writing this year. So the first part of the curriculum is grammar. The first 24 lessons cover parts of speech, sentence structure, and common problems kids have when writing. And then there are almost 70 lessons on composition. So this is where they focus on the writing process and writing paragraphs, narratives, essays, letters, and a research project. If you guys are curious about the program, go take a look at my flip through and review of level 7. This one is very similar. I think the main difference is when you get to level 8, there are differences in the composition part. in that this year they write a general narrative rather than a personal narrative, and they write a compare and contrast business letter rather than a persuasive business letter, but those are kind of minor differences. Overall, the curriculum is very similar. They're just expected to write at a little bit higher level this year. I'm not planning on using the scoring service. I did this past year, and will say that it was very nice for my kids to be able to submit their papers and get feedback from someone else on them. But it was really expensive to do that for all three of my kids. Next year, when my son is doing this in 9th grade, if we are still using Essentials in Writing, I might consider using it just for him, just to take that piece off of my plate. And then, like I said, we'll be using Writing and Rhetoric as a supplement. I began using this with my kids this year and really like how it's structured and what it has my kids working on. Yes, it's kind of an extra dose of writing, but it also teaches things that Essentials in Writing doesn't, that I think are valuable. Like this past week, one of the exercises, we're in the book Narrative 2 right now, I think it's called. But one of the exercises was my kids had to take a topic, set a timer for 1 minute, and they had to give an impromptu speech about that topic without using the words or like or This was just one little part of the assignment, but it's so valuable, I think, to do things like this because we really haven't before. And this can be something that's scary for kids or makes them nervous, and they have to practice it, or they get into the habit of using those little filler words, which I know I do too sometimes. They also practice narration. We've been working on outlining, summarizing, reading comprehension, dictation, copiousness, and in this book, they'll also get into writing a 6-paragraph expository essay. So it'll be interesting to see as we go what I continue to think about using Writing and Rhetoric with Essentials in Writing. The only thing that this is missing is grammar. They do recommend, if you're solely using Writing and Rhetoric for your language arts, that you also include a grammar curriculum, and then you kind of alternate the weeks that you work on those two things. But my plan is to try to work on Writing and Rhetoric about 3 times a week. There are about 12 lessons, I think, and the recommended pacing is to do 1 lesson per week. So this book here will take us maybe 3 to 4 months if we stay on track with that, and then we'll just move on to the next one if it's going well. The Writing and Rhetoric series starts at about a 3rd grade level. This book is actually, I keep setting it down and then picking it back up. This book here is actually their grade 4 or 5 book, but we have needed extra work with these skills, and my kids are finding success right now working through this. So I think it's going to be good just to continue to build on and work our way through this series. I also wanted to add in something small for vocabulary this year. This is another area I think we can improve on a little bit more. I looked at a couple of different options, but I settled on Wordly Wise. I'm going to have my son do a little bit of this each day. I like this because each week the lessons are the same. They have the same structure, but they're really good exercises for learning and building vocabulary. So I got book 7, even though my son will technically be in 8th grade, because I'm going to have my girls do this too. And because the words in here are still words that he should know, he doesn't know all of them. And I thought it would be easier for me to have them all doing the same thing. So this for vocabulary. And then for literature, this is another one. I know what I want to start with, and we're going to have to see how it goes. We are going to be trying out the Great Christian Adventure set from Generations, which is their literature curriculum for grades 7 and 8. So this includes 3 books. We've got Titus, A Comrade of the Cross, which is historical fiction, the Swiss Family Robinson novel, and then The Life of Henry Martyn, which is a missionary biography. So this is all Christian literature from the 19th century, and we have not read a lot of books like this with this style of writing, honestly. So that's what I'm a little concerned about. The reason that I picked this is because I didn't love what we used for literature this past year, which was Essentials in Literature. So I wanted to try something new. And I love how the goal behind what Generations does is to help us as parents love the Lord, apply His word to our lives, and pass on the faith to our children. I like knowing that the literature selections in this course are going to point my son to Jesus. And I really like how the workbook looks compared to what we used with Essentials in Literature. There is an introduction to each of the 3 books, giving a little bit of background and context. There are chapter summaries, scripture passages that apply to the readings, and questions that help walk kids through studying the books in light of scripture, which Essentials in Literature doesn't have. It's not a Christian curriculum. The questions about the book seem pretty straightforward from what I've seen so far. And another thing I really liked is that there are vocabulary words in here too to help define some of the words from the readings that kids might not know yet. So I'm looking forward to this change for literature next year and hoping it will be a good fit for my son. Time will tell. Okay, next I wanted to share about my pick for science. I mentioned in my last video that I was making a change and moving away from Berean builders for science. But before I share what I'm switching to, I want to share something on my curriculum picks list that we use daily in our homeschool, even though it's not technically a curriculum, and that's World Watch News. I don't know about you, but sometimes it takes a few tries before something really sticks in our homeschool routine. And that's how it was with World Watch News for us. We'd watch it here and there over the years when my kids were little, but this has been the first year that we have watched it regularly. And now I can't imagine our day without it. Once we got into the rhythm, once we made it a habit, it quickly became something that all of my kids look forward to. And it's turned into one of the easiest and most meaningful ways we start conversations about what's going on in the world. World Watch News is a 10-minute daily news program created by Christian journalists. It covers current events and headlines, but it also sprinkles in so many other topics: science, history, government, language, world cultures, and even art and tech. And they do this from a biblical perspective, from that biblical worldview. Because we don't have cable and my kids aren't on social media, which is where I tend to get a lot of news information these days, honestly, I would sometimes struggle with how to approach current events and bring them into our homeschool in age-appropriate ways. Thanks to World Watch News, I'm so thankful to have an easy way to teach my kids how to view the news and current events through a biblical lens. One of my favorite things is the tagline they end with every single day: "Whatever the news, the purpose of the Lord will stand." Isn't that the truth? It's such a powerful daily reminder for my kids and for me that God is sovereign and in control, even when what's going on in the world feels upside down. So being that the news my dad would put on every day when I was a little kid was so incredibly boring to me, I never thought that I would say that news time is something I actually look forward to now, and so do my kids. In fact, I think I mentioned this earlier, but they will not let me forget to turn it on each day. And if we do miss a day, we have to go back and catch up. We personally put it on while we're eating lunch, but I know many families use it during morning time to start the day. And since it's just 10 minutes, it's really easy to add in whenever works best for you. So if you're not already watching World Watch News in your homeschool, this is the perfect time to start because they are offering you guys 3 months for free through my link I will leave in the description of this video. Trust me, you're going to want those 3 months because it will help you build that habit in your home and you will really get a good feel for whether or not this is a good fit for you. I think it's so generous that they are offering this. And if you do end up liking it, then it will be that much easier to continue the habit into the upcoming school year. So go check it out. This is one of the most simple but impactful things you can add to your homeschool this year, along with all of the other wonderful curriculum you'll be choosing. Okay, let's talk about science. My 8th grader, along with my 7th graders, are all going to be studying earth science from Journey Homeschool Academy. I have had a friend telling me about Journey Homeschool Academy all year, telling me she really liked it, and I kind of brushed it off because I didn't know much about it. It wasn't one of the big curriculum companies that are always mentioned. But later this year, when I started thinking that maybe I'd better look into some other options to see if I could find a little bit better fit for us, I dug deeper into it. And lo and behold, I really liked what I saw. Journey Homeschool Academy is video-based and a biblical worldview science course. And it seems like it's going to be a really good fit for our family and our schedule. Since my son has already done a physical science class, I figured I would have him and my girls all do earth science this year. We'll try this out, and then they'll probably have separate classes next year as my son moves into biology. How this is structured is there are 35 weeks in the course, one lesson per week, and each lesson has one video lecture. So they watch one video a week. Then there is an optional but highly recommended reading to go along with this. And then there is a comprehension quiz each week that is graded online. And then there is, I think, one lab each week. So why I think this will be a great fit is because, a few reasons. My kids like video lessons. I like that there's one lab each week instead of a lab or activity each day. I like that they can't move on in the course if they don't score a 70% or higher on the quizzes. And I like that this is a middle school level course, so all of my older kids can do this together. And actually, they will all have separate logins for the course. So I envision starting this together so we can get a good feel for it. And then they can do it a bit more independently during the week, but then we'll all come together and do the lab together. Another thing that I really liked was the guided notes that come with the lessons. There is a focus on teaching note-taking skills and also study skills to help kids study and prepare for the exams they'll take during the course. We need a little bit of help here, and my kids are not great at taking notes. We just haven't done it very much. Same with study skills. So I like that this is something that is important to the creators of this course and that they will do more of this year, and they'll have that good structure for it. Now with the textbooks, the optional textbooks, they give you an option. Well, you can really choose any earth science textbook that you want to use, but they recommend either the BJU Press Earth Science textbook or the Novair Earth Science book. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Novair or Novar. The BJU Press book is from a young earth viewpoint, and the Novar book is from an old earth Christian viewpoint. I haven't bought a book yet. I asked my friend which one that she used, and she told me that she personally holds a young earth viewpoint, but she bought the old earth book to use because she wanted to see the other side and explore the other viewpoint with her kids than what they typically learn. So they could basically see what many other Christians believe and why they believe it, even if she doesn't necessarily believe the same things. And I thought this was interesting. I honestly probably would have just picked up the BJU Press book myself, but this has me thinking. So I'm really curious, and I want to hear from you guys. What would you choose if you were me? Would you choose the textbook? They're both Christian, biblically based books, but would you choose the book that aligns with your earth age viewpoint, or would you choose the other side to give your kids that perspective? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really would love to hear and have some help deciding. I will say that it looks like the video lecture does a great job of covering both sides of this. They actually have 2 different video lectures for the week that this topic is covered, and you can watch just one of them or you can watch both of them if you want to. So we'll probably, definitely watch both of them, but as far as the textbook for the overall course, I'm not sure yet which one I should or am going to choose. So that's what we're going to try for science this year. Journey Homeschool Academy. I purchased a physical copy of the student book and the lab activity guide. You can choose to just print off the notes yourself, but I like having them printed and ready to go. and I'm just looking forward to seeing how this goes this year. Okay, we are almost there, you guys. It's probably no surprise that we are sticking with the mystery of history for history next year. We'll be moving into volume 2, and again, I'll do this with my 3 older kids together. So in this volume, we will move into medieval history, and I'm looking forward to this because we're actually going to take the year to go through this course as it's intended instead of going through it more quickly like we did this year with volume 1. So we'll get into things a bit deeper and do a bit more of the recommended activities. I have a couple of videos where I share about the mystery of history. One is a flip through and one is a do a lesson with us style video. So I would love for you to check those out if you're curious about why I've loved this curriculum this year. But in general, my kids and I love the writing style. It's really engaging and interesting. The notebooking activities have been helpful, and I love how secular history is blended with biblical history into one timeline, so you can really see how things were happening alongside each other in history. We will be continuing our Latin study this year with third form Latin. This is from Memoria Press, and we started this series back when my son was in 3rd grade. I began teaching it to our homeschool co-op. I know some of you have asked me for a flip through or a full review on this Latin curriculum. I'm so sorry I haven't made it happen yet. I really am hoping to do that soon. But we are sticking with this. I figure we might as well. This is definitely a long-term study, and with this book, we are still in that grammar stage of learning. I really like the systematic way this is handled in this curriculum. They really take a slow and steady approach to learning the Latin grammar and vocabulary because that's what most kids are ready for at this age. Using that grammar and translating it is really fun and what we're working towards, but those are skills for that logic and rhetoric stage of the trivium, if you're familiar with that term and model of teaching. So that will come. We have had success so far with the form series. And I'll be honest, second form Latin has been a lot of work, a lot of new grammar forms and vocabulary to learn. And I've heard that third form is a bit easier now that we have so much other stuff under our belts. So we'll see. But the plan is to continue with this series, at least through earning the high school credits we'll need for foreign language, and then we'll see where we want to go from there. The last few things that I've got for my son are some electives and extras. We really let art slide this year, and I do want to pick that back up if at all possible. We used to use creating a masterpiece, and my kids all really liked it. But part of the problem was me. I was not great at planning out our projects. I let that slide, and so the art lessons began to happen less and less as we got further into our year. I think we're going to give creating a masterpiece a try again this year. I've got a couple of kids who really love art, so I want to make this happen. I was talking to one of the representatives at our local homeschool convention the other week, and she recommended that I really try to pick a project for the month and plan it out a month in advance, which should be plenty of time to gather supplies and get my act together, you would think. So that's one of my goals this year, to once again incorporate art more. My kids have asked for it. I feel like I've dropped the ball on this one, especially since my kids really do love it. I like creating a masterpiece because of the video lessons and because there are so many different options for projects. My kids like to take turns picking out which ones they want to do, and they end up creating really nice artwork. I've also had my eye on Foundations in Worship from Master Books, so I picked it up to try with my kids this year. I really want to do a good hymn study with my kids. I've tried piecing things together on my own, but I really need something like this where it's already done for me and I can just open and go. So this covers the meaning behind a lot of hymns and will teach us about different hymn writers and hopefully just help us better understand God and our faith and why we worship as we go through this. This course is written for grades 7 through 12, so it would be great to use in middle school or a high school elective. And then finally, I picked up this right here. This is the What We Believe series from Apologia. I had heard great things about it, and I'm not sure if we are going to use it during our school day or just use it as a read aloud. But I do want to incorporate it this year. I think it would be great for the entire family though. I will recommend, if you are looking for a good biblical worldview curriculum for your middle schooler, check out BJU Press Basics for a Biblical Worldview. We read through that book together and it was excellent. So this is another worldview curriculum. I would bet that there's some overlap in the material, but it's the kind of thing that's good to hear again and again. I've also got these two books here. I actually bought these for my son for Christmas, and I later saw them recommended on the Generations website as good character books for boys of this age range. So we've got Practical Happiness and Created for Work by Bob Schultz. Reading is not the first thing my son chooses to do in his free time, but I bought them off of that recommendation that there is great wisdom in here for young men. So we're going to make sure to do some mandatory reading this year. Maybe we'll read one this year and one next year, just spread them out a bit. I was actually thinking this would be great for my son and my husband to read. There are discussion questions at the end of each chapter. So it would be perfect to, read and then maybe go out for donuts or something each week and chat about the questions. That would be my idea. Donuts would definitely encourage my son to read, I think, and maybe my husband too. But check these out. There are actually 4 books from this author that looked really good and would probably be a valuable addition if you have a son about this age. Okay, you guys, that is it. That's all I have for my 8th grader this upcoming year. I would love to hear your thoughts or answer any questions you have at all. I can't believe this school year is almost winding down and it's time to think about all of this again, but here we are. I hope that this was helpful to you. If you have an 8th grader, maybe this gave you some ideas. Give this video a thumbs up if it did, and check out the links in the description below to everything I mentioned here today. And thank you once again to World Watch News for sponsoring this video. Everyone, go check them out and make sure to use my link for those 3 free months. It's such a great deal and really a fun, impactful routine that you can add to your homeschool. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.